Generally on BackTracks, we like to take a look back at the history of a now closed tram network, like the one we did on the 3 former Steam Tram lines in Parramatta, Australia, and we'll put a link to that video at the end of this one. But this is slightly different, as it's now 2024 and we are looking forward to the opening of the new Parramatta Light Rail, which is scheduled to start running in mid-2024. I'm Marty, and welcome to BackTracks. Just before Christmas last year, the new Parramatta Tram started trial running in the middle of the evening. And these are the first trams to run in Parramatta since the Steam Tram Museum burnt down back in 1993. The first of the 2 lines runs 12 kilometres between Carlingford and Westmead via the Parramatta CBD. And the second line, once complete, will head east connecting the Parramatta CBD to Sydney Olympic Park. But of course on BackTracks we can't help but take a look back, and we will in this case, because very interestingly, the northeastern part of the line runs along the former Carlingford railway line, which closed back in 2020 to be converted to the light rail line. So that's what we'll look at today, a quick history of the Carlingford railway line, which closed, and now what it looks like today, converted to light rail. The Carlingford railway line, at the end of its life, operated as the T6 Carlingford line, running a shuttle service between Clyde on the main Western line and Carlingford. The last trains ran on the 5th of January 2020. Now the line originally opened from Clyde to a place called Subiaco, later Camellia, in January 1885. Then later a bridge was built that crossed over the Parramatta River to Carlingford in 1896. Let's look at the line that started at Clyde and went all the way up to Carlingford. Now the first station north of Clyde was Rosehill Racecourse. 2 tracks ran to the first station at Rosehill and had 2 platforms. One was used for special events at Rosehill Gardens Racecourse and the other was the regular line. Now this section of the former railway line is not being used for the light rail. Much of it is being used to construct the new Sydney West Metro line. And here you can see a bike track along the former railway path, and the location of the station is in the centre distance. The next station north was Camellia Station. It opened in 1885, and apparently back in 2014, Camellia was the least used station on the entire Sydney Trains network, with only 70 people getting on each day. And today, Camellia Station, which has been demolished, is approximately the same place as the Rosehill Gardens tram stop. From here, the original railway line was single-tracked, and the stations from Camellia to Carlingford consisted all of single platforms to handle 4-carriage trains. There were no crossing loops or any other sections of double track on the line, and so no capacity for trains to pass each other. There were no signals past Rosehill, meaning the entire section of line was one block, meaning that only one train could be on the section at any time. The next station going north was the Rydalmere Railway Station, and when it opened it was originally called the Victoria Road Railway Station. The station and all the surrounding land were fully demolished in April 2020 and were replaced by the Yalamundi Light Rail stop. Doesn't it look great, the new tram being tested coming south into the Yalamundi tram stop? Although the weather wasn't so great, was it? Next was Dundas Railway Station, originally called Kissing Point Road Railway Station, and it's a heritage listed station, and it was the last privately built and owned station in New South Wales. And unfortunately there was a fire at Dundas Station in 2016, which destroyed the majority of the building's original fabric. But the now heritage-listed protected building was reconstructed to the same design in 2007 and is part of the new tram stop. And while we enjoy some of the footage of the tram trial running, let's talk about the history of the original railway line. John Bennett built a new private railway line from Clyde to the Rosehill Racecourse in 1888. And a few years later, in 1896, a man called Simpson built another private line that extended from Rosehill to Carlingford, primarily to transport produce from the area to Sydney. Now, interestingly, the first section was to terminate at Carlingford, and the second at Castle Hill, which was called Rogan's Hill, and then the third at Dural. But both the Bennett and the Simpson private railway lines didn't prosper, and by the end of 1896 both railway lines were in the hands of a bank. And continuing to head north, Telopea Railway Station was an infill station opened in 1925, and it was demolished in May 2020. Can't think of anything else to say about that station. And the final station online was Carlingford, opened in 1896, and it was the terminus of that original line. It was actually called Pennant Hills when it opened. It was only supposed to be a temporary terminus. As I mentioned earlier, it was originally intended to extend all the way to Dural. A couple of interesting points about Carlingford. The Carlingford produce store is located adjacent to the station, and it included the ability to load grain onto railway wagons. And also you can see a large amount of land that lies beyond the station, and that was originally reserved for future extensions of the line. One day, maybe, it'll be used. And this station doesn't have a lot of luck. A major development of the Carlingford station and the Carlingford line was proposed as part of the Parramatta to Chatswood railway link. But the Epping to Parramatta section of the project was postponed indefinitely in 2003. But in 2010 it was resurrected as part of a federal election promise, and it would have been rebuilt then as an underground station. Work was planned to start in 2011 with a 2017 finish, but the then government cancelled the project. But all was not lost, because in 2015 the then New South Wales government announced that the Camellia to Carlingford section of the line would be converted to light rail, forming the branch of the Parramatta Light Rail network. And after all those false starts, it was a minor miracle, it actually happened. And that's why we're looking at a tram in Carlingford right now. So a great story of a line that had a lot of promise and hopefully will be fulfilled as part of the new Parramatta Light Rail line. But one thing you can't escape is the cost of this project. The cost for the first stage blew out by $475 million to now $2.9 billion. And thank you for spending that, because I was able to make a couple of YouTube videos out of it. And talking of that, in the next video we'll take a look at stage 2 of the line, including the section of the tram line that uses the former Sandown branch railway line. This new line will be about 10 kilometres in length and have 14 stops. Well, there you have it. The story of how trams have returned to Parramatta for the first time in 30 years. But not where the trams formerly ran, but along a former railway line. And as I mentioned, we've already made a video on the former steam tram lines of Parramatta, so click on the video on the left of screen above and check it out if you haven't already. Thanks always to the information and image sources we use to make these videos, and hopefully we'll see you again soon when we take another look at Australia's lost and found public transport. See you soon.